the castle. It was actually the capital of the island until 1757. The castle took the form which you can see today at the beginning of the 16th century when it was renovated by an engineer called Nicholas Suarez, with the help of the Venetians and the Kefalonian craftsmen. The castle was probably the headquarters of the province of the theme of Kefalonia during the Byzantine times. After the Byzantines fell, the castle was passed to the Franks and then to the Turks for 16 years and finally to the Venetians in 1500. A fierce battle was fought here by the Venetians, Catalans and Kefalonians to take the castle, but it was fought here by the Venetians. And finally actually ousted the Turks. And you can see the villages now below here of on Tuesday there was actually a massive yacht in there actually flying a red ensign.
So when there was in what day did we go there?
So whilst you can sort of see old buildings in Zakynthos that were destroyed in the 53 earthquake, over here, so you won't quite see so many, but it was actually the 12th of August 1953, and it was actually fairly late in the evening, and it wasn't totally the earthquake that actually shattered both islands, it was fire, because of course everybody was cooking in the evening with colour gas bottles, and of course as certain buildings fell down and people run out their houses and everything caught fire. So it's as much to blame fire as actually the earthquake itself. So you will actually see some remains in different places, but certainly later on this afternoon there's a particular village I want to show you. It's actually quite amazing the difference after 53. The land is actually owned by Mr. Culligas, who bought the land from the owners and actually gave it back to them free of charge on the condition that they screw the local grapes, the Rombola, and only sold their production to him. The Rombola wine factory or wine cooperative is actually next door to the Church of St. Gerasimos, the patron saint of Kefalonia. Actually down in the valley, which we'll see very shortly. Gerasimos had a thing about caves. He even came to Zakynthos and lived in a cave to take us through to the monastery of St. Gerasimos. The village was completely destroyed during the earthquake in 53, but many donations of money were sent from Kefalonians living in America to actually help rebuild it. There is actually a plaque on the wall of the church up here actually thanking everybody for their donations and help in actually rebuilding the village. So villages are very far and few between here. So actually on our way to the monastery, you'll just talk about St. Gerasimos area where the monastery of St. Gerasimos is today. And there actually was, after being underground for 2 years, when they actually exhumed his body, there was no actually erosion of his body whatsoever. The original monastery was actually built in 1264. The old church is built over a cave where he lived and is full of donations from rich Kefalonians who have prayed to the saint and have had their prayers answered. Chandeliers and lamps of silver and gold can also be seen in the church. Also the sarcophagus containing the relics of the saint, which is opened to allow the Greeks to kiss the vestments covering the relics. First they kiss the coffin and then light a candle, and then they hand the priest a piece of paper with the words which they want him to recite. He mutters them as he opens the coffin, and then they will kiss the feet of the saint. Some people come for cures and some come for a blessing for themselves, for relatives or friends. There are actually icons in the church of at least 400 years old, and one of them actually on the left as you actually go in is said to be over 500 years old, and it actually belongs to St. Gerasimos. You can actually see Mount Enos now up in front of us. Also has another name which I'll tell you about later on. Then we've never actually tasted it. There is a special dish over here called kefalonia pie. And one of the herbs actually in kefalonia pie, which makes it rather unique, it's a specific herb that only grows on top of Mount Enos. You can't get it anywhere else, so this is why the pie is only unique to Kefalonia. When we actually stop for lunch, they will actually have it there. So if you want to try it, it's actually filu pastry with beef and rice in the middle. It's got a beautiful flavour. I actually took my wife home a piece on Tuesday, and guess what? I've got orders for another piece today. And also with the office manager at Thompson's also told me, when my wife told her that I'd bought her a piece, I've got to take a piece for her as well, because she also loves it. So I don't know whether that's a recommendation or not, but I actually do like it as well. So in front of us now you can now see St. Gerasimos' church, and over to the right you can see the Rabola winery. There's another good wine of Kefalonia called Caligula, which is also a very nice wine. Again, if you like a deep red, rich claret. I know that's actually true because a personal friend of mine, my father's, actually came over here and actually had a restaurant for quite a few years, and he was actually in the Air Force. And he actually was one of the first people to set foot onto Zakynthos and Kefalonia actually back in 1953. He's actually had aerial photographs, personal aerial photographs, of the devastation of the island. So we're now going to start climbing up towards the highest mountain on the island, which is Mount Enos. It's actually the third largest mountain in Greece. Its highest peak is actually 1,621 metres above sea level. It's pouring a rain in Zakynthos, by the way. That was her indoors, just telling me it's pouring a rain and...
Don't forget to pay.
It's what 3 bits of pie.
Oh well. You picked a good day to come out. What to do tonight is going to be a good one.
There's quite a collection of kefalonia firs here that which only grew here until Commissioner Napier sent some specimens abroad to be transplanted in other countries. Napier was also responsible for preserving the forests and for building the roads, some of the roads around this area. He was in charge during the British occupation in the 19th century and became a well-known local figure. All the forests, of course, have been reduced in size due to fires, and of course also to local shipbuilders. Monte Nero, which basically means Black Mountain, and later on you'll see what I actually mean when we're actually coming back down to Agastoli this afternoon. A little bit of history about Kefalonia. I mean, Kefalonia has been occupied by and fought over by many different civilizations. Its historical origins go back as far as 4000 BC. And it was able to support life well before overseas trade began. During the Venetian occupation, which was 1500 to 1797, it was actually a granary for all the other Ionian islands, and the slopes and valleys have always produced wine, olive oil, veg and fruit. The vast forests of pine were mainly used, as I said before, by shipbuilders. Russian-Turkish Navy retook it with the aid of the British in 1807. The Russians gave it back to the French, and then in 1809 the British came to set up the government on the island, and were actually here until 1864, when it was reunited with Greece. One of the bad things that actually happened in Kefalonia was that there was actually thousands of Italian soldiers who were actually killed by the Germans in the valley on the way down to Sami. Altogether, they said there were 17,000 Italians were killed. They had been the occupying force of Kefalonia in 1943, when Mussolini was overthrown. And of course, as most of you know, Mussolini was the Italian leader during the Second World War. And the Italian commander in Athens was ordered by the Germans to tell his troops to surrender. The Italians had changed sides by this time and they were no longer fighting with the Germans, so he actually refused. But outnumbered by the Germans, they were actually massacred. And there is actually a memorial to them in Agastoli. Once we get around the top of the mountain here, we also start to go down the valley, and you'll start to see Sami and also Ithaca in the distance. If you look over to the right, you can actually see the valley there now with the St. Gerosimus. It's one thing I could never understand. The same in Zakynthos it is here as well. Like somebody throwing old cookers over the edge of the road. It's sort of, you know, doesn't make sense. You've got a beautiful country, yet they go and spoil it sometimes by doing silly little things. But and again, there's quite a few disused quarries, and all the old machinery is just laying there, rusting away and decaying. So we're heading now for the Dragoti Caves. I say so they were actually discovered after an earthquake many years ago. There was actually so they say there's 120 steps to go down. Some say there's 118. Some say there's 123. Some say there are 165. But there is actually 172. Actually, from the car park down to the very, very bottom of the cave. So it's a fast walk down and a slow walk back. As you're going down, you'll hear other people coming up the other way going, It's not the caves that have done it, it's just the steep slopes, understand? So we're actually now travelling over now to the east coast of Kefalonia, and directly opposite Ithaca. We're probably eating around about 1:30, to give you some sort of idea. Last year they actually started in Zakynthos. They did try to do a three-island tour, as they called it, by boat. They actually left Zakynthos and travelled to Sami here, and then went to the caves and the lake, and then up to Myrtos Bay, and back down to Sami, and then across to Ithaca, and then back to Zakynthos. But something happened with the port authorities or somebody here, and only actually done it twice. And it was actually one of the big ferries actually in Zakynthos, from Zakynthos harbour, so it's a shame because it was quite a nice little trip. So when we actually arrive at the Dragoti Caves, if you follow me to the entrance, and then as we actually go down, there will be somebody there just to take the white cards from you. Just proves that you've paid me, that's all. Then I have to pay them. So please take your time. There's no real desperate rush, so...
Sorry. Do you want to show okay? Like, because the light is... you? Yeah. No.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Put your finger with the legs. No. Doesn't matter, so just... What have you done now?
I got the spare back.
I've got spare back. You wouldn't know what it is. It'd be longer than I can make. I just waited. There's no patience. Hmm? Thank you, man. Not bike using. Where are we, Sue?
Caves.
Oh, Drach.
No, Drach Matty, isn't it?
Drach Matty. What do you want to photo? Me? You? Do you want to go up there?
Just not.
Where do you want to go? Go through the back. Smile. No. Right? I did not make finger in the way, did I? Are you sure? I was holding a camera like that. I convent, Sue, and I'm sticking up. There's another flash ready if you want to take a photo. Oh, you got a problem there? You want to get the star? You want to get Kim? Cheese. Feta cheese. Oh, I remember that. It's impressive, I've got to say. Okay. Can't really see much because the car. Oh, I remember that. Oh yeah. Okay, this is the main road.
Est-ce que bon roule?
Spring to us.
So Menisali Lake, underground lake, was actually opened to the public also in 1963, when actually the steps and the entrance were made. We actually go down a tunnel to actually reach the lake. Again, be careful, it's slightly slippery, but there are actually handrails on either side. It was just a cave until the roof fell in during an earthquake hundreds of years ago. And the roof is now actually submerged under the, it's like a submerged island now, if you like, under the water. And you actually go around it actually in a boat. It was actually discovered by Austrian scientists. The water starts at about 15 metres deep. That deepest point is over 30 metres deep. There are, say, eels in the lake. And there is actually, apparently they originally these Austrians actually put a dye in some potholes, actually in the western side of Kefalonia, and they actually appeared actually in the lake here, and then actually came out actually in the sea at Sami. So it actually proves that the underground network of waters actually does actually come right the way through, and water actually does actually go uphill somehow. I don't know how, but it does actually go uphill. There is actually a little story where how the lake actually got its name. They say it was actually a girl's name, Melisanthe. She was a young shepherdess, and each day she took her sheep actually to graze in the pastures, and used to sit there and sing to her sheep. One day, sitting on the hillside under the shade of a plane tree, she was just resting there, and suddenly she heard this rumbling, and apparently the ground crumbled beneath her, and of course she fell in to the lake and died. And that's how it, they say, it got called Melisani Lake. So when you actually get down there are sort of like 3 little jetties where the little boats pull into. I was saying to somebody earlier on, I wouldn't like to do the job of those men down there, because you'll see all day they actually stand up and row people backwards and forwards all day long. And they haven't even got proper oars. They are sort of like lumps of wood shaped like similar to an oar. They're not even as wide as an oar. So whether that's because they go too fast or what, I don't know. But they do go fairly slowly, and they will actually should talk to you as well as you actually go round. So the water is very, very cold in the lake. So it is full of eels, and you can actually see some of them sometimes. So you actually go down and you actually appear actually where the roof actually fell in, and then you actually go off in a little boat off to the right hand side, actually into the cave. If you want to, when you actually come out, you can actually look behind you, and you can actually see there is a fence round the top of the hole, but you can't actually see in from outside. So we're now into Sammy. I haven't actually noticed it, but it's probably seen into Agia and Agios. If you actually sort of think about it, it's quite simple. Agia is for a woman, who's a saint, and Agios is a male saint. And that actually goes for all the male names in Greece. They all end in an S, and all female names end in an A. And when you talk to them, you're supposed to a male, you're supposed to drop the S when you're talking to them, but you leave it there when you're talking about them. So in other words, if I'm talking to Tassos, I call him Tasso, not Tassos. So one of the common names in Greece is Effie, but it's actually Ephemia. It ends in an A, and that's actually where we'll actually be stopping for lunch break at St. Ephemia. Little ferry in here on the right hand side that actually goes across to Ithaca. If you look over in the far distance to the hill on the mountain on the right hand side there, we'll actually be at the bottom there looking back this way later on at lunchtime. Not really a holiday resort as such. There aren't many sort of hotels here. I don't think many holiday companies actually come here. As you can see, not very large, is it? It's go to the front and actually hand them to the chap there. It's about 10 or 12 to a boat. Rather nice residence properties coming up on the right hand side, just before the church. A beautiful view of Ithaca and the bay. There's two of them here, look on the right.
What'll do you, yeah.
Depending where the coach drops us off, the entrance, I'll show you the actual entrance, you can go down and come back virtually the same way. We end up going through the little shop, and the coaches normally, they're quite good. You get the coaches right close outside, so you can more or less get straight back on the coach or have a look in the shop first. Again, don't rush, we take our time today. You can see where that coach is now, look, that's what actually happens. So we'll go around the back there, pull up behind him, and then when you start to come up, they bring the coach forward.
Right. So this is where we go again, folks. There's a grip carpet in here. Batteries on the way up to the camera. No.
Logical character of Odysseus and Homer, and of course that's actually where Lord Byron actually died, actually on the island. There is actually the Nymph's Cave there that has actually got two entrances. The northern entrance is supposed to be for mere mortals like us, and the southern entrance was for the gods only. It's actually quite an interesting height and a perfect actual port for boats, because you have to go right around the other side, and if you actually look at the shallow bit in the middle to the right there, over the other side, you actually come in from that direction. So in other words, if you left here, you have to go around the bottom, turn left again, and then turn left again to actually get into the bay at Vathi, which is actually the capital of Ithaca. The other week I was saying to people along this stretch of sea here, you normally get quite a few Italians along this area, and therefore you end up with quite a few people with no clothes on. Just as I said that, what did I see but somebody's cheeks? But normally it's only in August, because Italians, of course, most of Italy closes down for August, and they actually come over here to Zakynthos and Kefalonia. There are actually ferries direct from Italy during the month of August. Just at a red roof building just over to the right in front of us, that's roughly where we're going to be for lunch. Looking back. So unfortunately the sun's not out at the moment, but you can see a little bit bluey down here, the waters. It's always a lot bluer, of course, when the sun's out. When people do ask actually what it is, what makes it so blue. It's actually the white limestone or the chalk bed, and with the sun's rays actually going through the water, actually turns it blue like that. If you actually go under the water and look under, it doesn't look blue at all. As we actually get up to Agathemia, there's supposed to be some goats outside, which belong to a gentleman by the name of Dinati, and it's just before this little fishing port, and the goats are reputed to have gold and silver teeth due to the metallic substances in the rock on which they graze. I don't believe that for a minute, but also the high mineral content of the water they drink. But there's one thing actually over here that people do suffer with actually, is gallstones, because of the high mineral content of the water over here. Talking about that, I mean, you're always warned not to drink the water over here in both Zakynthos and Kefalonia. There isn't actually anything wrong with the water itself. The main real sort of problem is that the majority of the accommodations, of course, actually have water tanks. So the water is actually stored in the tanks and then pumped through to the accommodation. So that's really where the problem comes in. If you actually go out to the villages and you actually see the village taps, you can actually see people drinking the water and actually collecting water. There's quite a few, isn't there? Come on, smile, let's see teeth. There's more in loads of them here today. Well, they're everywhere over the hill, look. Blimey. They will actually climb trees if they can. Hello, there's an English car there, look. English number plates. Now get a good glimpse of Ephemia. This hotel, by the way, is not a Thompson hotel. I'll tell you who it is. because you can go and have a look yourself, can't you, if you wanted to. It's actually a Manos and Sunville holidays. So it's an idyllic little spot, lovely quiet, lovely views.
We did have a Manos, but they don't play for that.
And they laugh how that is like. When is it 52?
No, it's 53, 54, okay, 56. Want to take a couple of photos then? Have it down before?
Oh, a nice little beach.
Like I went down there. When you go on the beach, you will have a tree in the way. Hang on there. Yeah,
Where is it?
just see it.
It's from the 24th.
Yeah.
I think it's just gone everything one photo.
See that landslide look? It's been there over the period of time.
in the bay. Little blue one. Little blue one.
To Kefalonia Lake at the other end, and at the other end it's fresh water, so it's actually fresh water at one end and sea water at the other. When we were here last Sunday, there was actually a car, they were just pulling a car off the cliff edge. It had actually gone through the barrier and actually gone down the hill slightly, and some of these trees that you can see just laying here actually stopped the car going down to the sea. I'll actually show you where it actually went through. I just hope the people were okay, but they were just pulling people out, pulling the car out rather. You know, it's normally very blue down to the right there. Those of you on the right hand side can see down. Again, at the short edge it's fairly blue. That certainly seems strange, but we are actually more or less on the northwestern coast now. Doesn't sort of like feel it, does it? It's sort of... Once you get around the corner here, you'll probably see the difference. There are some beautiful beaches there. Down to the right there's a few nice little beaches down to the right.
I missed them.
This actually now, just over to the right hand side, this small section here is very narrow, or fairly narrow compared to the rest of it. You can see the difference that people from Agostoli to get to Lixori will actually use the ferry mainly rather than using the road, because it's such a long way round. That's one of the questions people actually ask me, is how to get on over here with medical care. But there is a thing called ICA, which is that you pay into, and if you pay ICA you actually get free medical attention, and you also only pay 30% of the cost of any prescription. It's not one standard price, they actually only charge you 30% of the actual cost. And my father and mother, although retired over here from England, that was actually all paid for by their pension from from England. And the operation he had over here was all paid for by the UK. Of course, for them, when they actually retired over here, originally the drachma was something like about 250 to the pound. Then it went up to 360. And then when they devalued the drachma, it went up to about 500. They actually couldn't spend their pension over here. So a bit later on I'll tell you about the actual cost of living over here. Down to the right there you can actually see some fish farms there now. I think there's actually about 9 of these actually around this sort of area. Funny enough, one of the fish around here, I don't know why, they actually doesn't actually call around here, it's actually called Nile perch. And if you actually see it on a restaurant menu, it's actually called perca. It's actually from the Nile, and it's a little bit like a rock eel or rock salmon, whichever way you like to call it, but similar sort of taste to rock eel. These fish farms down here, they say that they actually take between 200 and 300 tons of fish a year. So these fish farms employ between 30 and 40 people, and apparently there's 4 or 5 English people actually working there as well. One of them has actually got nets over the top, so I don't know whether that's flying fish, but seems strange there's a lot of yachts out today. Doesn't seem to be much wind about for yachts.
It's the same, it's more like a lake all the way around here, Glen.
If you actually land in Kefalonia, by the way, you do have sea at both ends. Just see directly in front of us now, just see Agastoli coming in. And not the first bit of peninsula coming out, but the farther bit of peninsula is actually where the airport is. Around a few more bends. Remember I was talking about a village that I'll probably show you later on this afternoon. Actually, a village is called Farsa. There's we actually sort of see in the distance, if you look up the hill, above all of the new red roofs, you'll see the complete old village. And where they've actually moved down from the, it's coming into view now, look. See the old village up the top and the new village down the bottom. The old village was completely destroyed. The only building that's up there still is the little church, look, with the painted white. I do say most of the men from the village are actually sailors. The name farce actually comes from the word farce, which means comedy. Just directly in front of us in the moment you'll see lots of blue beehives. So a lot of these are actually fed on wild, a lot of the bees are fed on wild thyme. I don't know whether you've actually ever eaten honeycomb itself, but not the best thing if you've got false teeth, I can assure you. It sort of lasts for about 4 hours. Very, very chewy. I never actually realised, I mean, I was watching a programme on television over here a few weeks ago. I never really realised that they're saying that without plants and shrubs and without bees, we wouldn't really survive as a planet. Everything actually starts really with them. It's quite an interesting programme to watch. We just think of them as nasty little horrible things that sting, don't we?
Very good.